During the US occupation of Iraq, it was routine to torture Iraqis in prisons like Abu Ghraib, whose prison guards were using tactics learnt in Israeli training camps. As Robert Fisk pointed out in Abu Ghraib torture trail leads to Israel. One of the most baffling questions asked during interrogation was, where is the man called Imam Mahdi? Where is he hiding? According to Mohabaat News, a pro-Israel Iranian Christian news agency, the fear of the hidden Imam is so credible that they posted news of how the CIA and MI6 have been going to Iraq for the past 20 years to get information about Imam Mahdi. How they tortured religious scholars and innocent villagers to ask questions based on where the Imam was last seen. Which city? What time and when will he be coming again, and in which year? American corporate media has already shown sinister documentaries depicting the hidden Messiah, who is apparently advising Iranian politicians from his lofty hidden position and maneuvering to bring about Armageddon. So who is this Imam Mahdi that the Zionists controlling the American Congress and the international monetary system on the lookout for, with orders to shoot him on sight? Imam Mahdi is the 12th Shia Imam, and according to Islamic hadiths is in a occultation or hidden, and will return to earth to establish peace and justice on earth. He was born on July 29, 869 in the city of Samarra, Iraq, and his mother Nargis was of Roman descent. He was kept hidden from birth till he disappeared because the rulers of the time, the Abbasids, knew the prophecy of Imam Mahdi, who will bring about a revolt against oppression and tyranny. The Abbasids knew that the prophesied one will be the son of the 11th Shia Imam, Imam al-Askari. In order to kill the child at the birth, they kept a close eye on his household, even inspecting the women of the household to see who was with child. According to the story, the child's birth and first few years were kept secret. However, as soon as Imam al-Askari was killed, the son, who was about 4 years old, went into the realm of the hidden. He reappeared after a few years but disappeared again as the hunt for him gathered pace to await the ordained hour to reappear and destroy the perpetrators of evil and restore humanity. Whether this is a fiction or non-fiction, what is strange is that the same trend in the story continues till today. The oppressive rulers over 1,000 years ago tried to hunt for him to kill him then, and the present-day oppressors are still hunting him to kill him. Melanie Phillips, the voice box for the Zionists, recently on BBC Question Time turned the discussion around again to the Shia Imam Mahdi hiding in Iran, coming to bring about Armageddon. In journalist Matt Carr's Infernal Machine blog, he writes, in other words, the Iranian leadership is seeking nuclear weapons so that Iran can be destroyed and its population can all go to heaven. Not surprisingly, this argument has been made by the bug-eyed Zionist zealot Melanie Phillips on numerous occasions. Phillips writes, as I have written over and over again, from the supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei downwards, the Iranian regime is dominated by people, adherents of a sect called the A12ers, who believe that the Shia Messiah, the Mahdi, will return to earth either as a result of war to bring about the apocalyptic end of days. It is obvious the Zionists want war with Iran. However, what doesn't make sense is, why is the search on for a man supposed to have disappeared over 1,000 years ago? The hidden Imam has been part of Shia and Sunni Islam for centuries. And this belief is really no different than a form of millenarianism that exists in all religions. Christians believe that the Savior Jesus will return to fight the Antichrist, while the Jews are risking World War III by dismantling Islam's third holiest site, Masjid al-Aqsa, to build the third temple so the Jewish Messiah will return and take them to world domination. According to skeptics and the secular trained Western mind, these are just biblical stories. However, what is baffling is, if they are just biblical stories, then why is Israel looking for Imam Mahdi? As facts emerge of this hunt, then maybe we should not also dismiss the stories emerging from Iraq about what steps they have taken to look for him. In 2006, Imam Mahdi's father Imam al-Askari's tomb in Samarra, which is a place that marks Imam Mahdi's birth and disappearance, was bombed by men dressed up as the security forces. The men entered the tomb, tied up the caretakers, wired up the area with bombs, and according to the caretakers, the security officers opened the tomb to take something from it. Many believe that they took some clothing from Imam al-Askari's body in an attempt to determine the DNA of the future Imam. It's not coincidental that Phillips and her American Zionist counterparts are fomenting fear again, this time about a hidden Imam. Phillips is part of the network that perpetuates Islamophobia and part of the Israel First citizens whose psyche has been described aptly by David Ben-Gurion, Israeli Prime Minister, when he stated, "When a Jew, in America or in South Africa, talks to his Jewish companions about our government, he means the government of Israel." They are part of the same network that inspired the Norwegian killer Anders Breivik, who killed 77 innocent people, mainly pro-Palestinian supporters who were in favor of boycotting Israel. These Israel First individuals are also part of the group that the hacker organization Anonymous exposed when it said Israel had a hidden network of 30,000 covert operatives, some openly labeled hitmen. Gordon Duff, American political analyst and senior editor at Veterans Today, writes in Horror in Israel, a 30,000 Mossad spies exposed, stating, "Every day we see it in the news, dozens killed in Pakistan, dozens more in Iraq, Kenya, Nigeria, the covert army of 30,000, planning terror, building a dozen car bombs a day and then being able to, not just write the lies blaming others but, in most cases, direct public officials, controlled through blackmail, threats or bribery, to respond as directed. Instead of worrying about Armageddon brought on by a man who disappeared over 1,000 years ago, shouldn't Phillips and the world worry about the warning given by Israeli military historian Martin van Greveld when he said, "We possess several hundred atomic warheads and rockets and can launch them at targets in all directions. We have the capability to take the world down with us. And I can assure you that that will happen before Israel goes under." For centuries the Talmud has taught that Jesus the Nazarene was sexually immoral, worshipped statues of stone, was cut off from the Jewish people for his wickedness, and refused to repent. However, over the centuries, through heavy funding and manipulation, the Zionists managed to convince the Christians that it is Islam that is evil and needs to be counteracted through the unity of Christian Zionists. Most of the Christian Bible Belt in America has strong links with Zionists, and therefore it must have been a shock to them when a Catholic Christian, Hugo Chavez, made a decisive speech after his momentous meeting with Iran's President Mohammad Ahmadinejad, in which he states, "For us genuine Christians, Jerusalem is a very holy location. Prophet Jesus will come hand in hand with Hazrat Mahdi, then peace will prevail all over the world." The fact that Chavez hinted that Muslims and Christian will unite to fight evil is something that the Zionists do not want. They have spent billions on Islamophobic think tanks and through the media to marginalize Muslims. An interview conducted by Ann Curry on behalf of NBC with Iran President Ahmadinejad was not aired in 2009 because his answer about the hidden Imam did not support the view that they wanted to perpetuate, that he will bring about an apocalypse. President Ahmadinejad corrected her by stating, "What is being said about an apocalyptic war and global war? This is what the Zionists are claiming. Imam will come with logic, with culture, with science. He will come so that there is no more war. No more enmity, hatred. No more conflict. He will return with Jesus Christ. The two will come back together. And working together, they would fill this world with love." The last thing Israel would want is that Christian groups should wake up and realize that the real enemy is not Islam but rather Zionism. The fact that the Roman Catholic Church wants to turn a blind eye to the persecution of Christians in Jerusalem affirms why the founders of Israel and the House of Rothschild are in control, as Myram Skull Rothschild stated, "Let me issue and control our nation's money and I care not who writes the laws." If Israel is basing its policies on some biblical belief that it was their right to return to Jerusalem as the chosen people after 2,000 years of wandering, keeping in mind the occupiers of Palestinian lands are originally Khazars, then it shouldn't come as surprise that its leaders believe that it is fulfilling some kind of messianic prophecy. Jonas E. Alexis, in A Bolshevik Purge of Western Civilization and Rational Discourse, Part 2, writes, If this is still unbelievable, listen to former Shin Bet chief Yuval Diskin. My major problem is that I have no faith in the current leadership, which must lead us in an event on the scale of war with Iran or a regional war. I don't believe in a leadership that makes decisions based on messianic feelings. Are these messianic feelings the reason why the search is on for Imam Mahdi? And if they are aware of his coming, then they must also be aware of the hadith that states that armies carrying black flags will come from Khorasan and no power will be able to stop them, and they will finally reach Bayt al-Maqdis, Masjid Aqsa, where they will erect their flags. The fact that Iran, as the IA has revealed, is not building a nuclear bomb, however Israel is still pushing for war. Could the reason be that the biggest supporters of the 12th Shia Imam Mahdi are in Iran and Khorasan is part of the region? Khorasan is the northeastern province of Iran but also includes some parts of Central Asia and Afghanistan. Wherever the US and Israel has carried out wars, they have used bombs containing white phosphorus, exposing the fact that wars are not about exporting democracy, but ensuring they leave a legacy of crippled and mutilated future generations unable to ever form a resistance movement. 10 years after the start of the US invasion in Iraq, doctors are witnessing an abnormally high number of cases of cancer and birth defects linked to the use of depleted uranium and white phosphorus by the US military. The current trait of burrs may have been ill-equipped but were infused with the same spirit that led Imam Ali ibn Abu Talib to break down the impregnable doors of the Jewish fort Kaaba. The same spirit his son Imam Hussein had at Karbala, where his band of 72 stood against the tyrant Yazid's army of 10,000. It is quite poignant that over 1,000-year-old hadith mentions that many Arabs will work with the tyrants to fight against the coming Imam. Who are these Arabs? We have seen already Saudi Arabia and the Gulf rulers' alliance with Israel, and nothing has exposed this more than the Syria conflict. Israel is pushing for war with Syria and Iran along with Saudi Arabia and Qatar, funneling large sums of money and weapons to militias inside Syria, and killing Shias is part of that agenda. Journalist Seymour Hersh, in his New Yorker article, The Redirection, highlighted how the Bush administration's whole focus was to undermine Iran and to weaken Hezbollah by working with Saudi Arabia funding extremist groups. The New World Order has managed to create brutal forces in Islam friendly to Israel, a force that thinks it is okay to rape women and children and show decapitated bodies as trophies on YouTube. This intolerant form of Islam, manufactured by British agent Abdul Wahab, has produced an intolerant form of Islam propagated by the Saudi regime, which sees Shias rather than Israel as the enemy. Abdul Tamimi, one of the leaders of the Free Syrian Army, asked Israel for help to establish Sunni rule to oppress Shias, Christians and Druze, stressing Israel is not our enemy, we want Israel to help us. Saudi Arabia and Israel is also funding sectarian warfare in countries like Pakistan, Afghanistan and Iraq, with an alarming numbers of Shias deaths taking place. WikiLeaks US Lahore cables highlighted how Saudi Arabia is funding millions of dollars to al-Hadith and Islamic clerics in the region. It is possible that millenarian beliefs will get stronger as the world's leaders and rulers work with the proponents of the New World Order, dragging their nations and people into subjugation and slavery, and the only organization, the UN, that was meant to protect nations and their rights is an illogical, unjust and completely undemocratic structure and mechanism. It is through abusing this improper mechanism that America and its accomplices have managed to disguise their bullying as noble concepts and impose it on the world. Imam Khamenei. The fact that a strategy is being implemented by Israel with the support of the US to search for the hidden Imam leads one to believe that maybe there is some truth in the biblical story, and in a world where we still want to believe in superheroes, it's not so illogical if our eyes look wistfully with hope for an army that will emerge from Khorasan carrying black flags led by the prophesied one and fight against injustice.